everyone. I literally only had time to say hi everyone before you came running. Hi everyone, I'm Freddie, and I recently read all 3 of these books, which are of course the first 3 books in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I've made a vlog for each of these books, but I kept all of those vlogs spoiler free on purpose, with the intention of making a spoiler-filled video with all of my spoiler thoughts. You might have guessed, you probably already know since you clicked on the video, that this is that spoiler-filled video. I really enjoyed the books in general, and I've tried to kind of make an outline to follow in this video, just to be a little bit organized. Honestly, I'm probably not going to succeed at that, and there's a very high chance that I'm going to go on tangent or forget things, and you never know. But the risk of sudden thoughts and sudden tangents is very high. I think I'm actually just gonna give myself some more natural light. Just a sec. I don't know if that made any difference, but we'll see. I am blinding myself a little bit with the sun, but it's fine. But yeah, let's just get into it and see where we end up. First, I figured I'd kind of talk a bit about the different characters, and again, I made a list of the characters. I probably forgot some, or many, definitely forgot some names. The sun is really blinding me now. Well, but let's just start with Randall Thor. He seems the obvious choice. I enjoy him. I think he's a very classical fantasy protagonist, I feel, but I do find him interesting, and his struggle with the realization that he is the dragon reborn and coping with the magic and the corruption, I find very interesting. I'm very, very curious where it's going to go, because there are so many options, right? He could go mad, or he could find a way to reverse the corruption on the source. And I don't really know. I have ideas, but where is this going to go? I really don't know. But I like him. I like all of the hints that we got, starting from Tam's delirious ramblings about finding a baby and bringing it home, and Rand's kind of discovering that who he thought was his biological family was not, and all of the hints that are dropped along the way showing that his parents are probably Aiel. And I really enjoy, I know it happens several times, but I enjoy every time someone is startled, he looooks like Aiel, enemy. I think it's fun every time. I don't know if it's gonna continue, because now he's met up with Aiel, and I don't know how it's gonna go after the Dragon Reborn. Is he gonna go with them? Because I assume he's gonna go to their I forgot the name, but where they send their wise people and tribe leaders. I assume that's gonna happen at some point, but I don't know if it's gonna happen immediately. Cat here. I don't know if it's gonna happen in Shadow Rising or later on, but I'm very interested. The sun is being indecisive about, or well, I guess it's the clouds' fault, because they're moving in and out. It is cloudy, but it's not completely cloud covered, so sometimes the sun is really blinding me. But yeah, I enjoy Rand. I'm very curious about how his relationships with Gwyn, and I keep forgetting the daughter heir's name. Setuan, must you play with your toys right behind the chair? Elaine, that's her name. Elaine. So I'm very curious how his relationship to Elaine and Gwyn and also Mina is going to develop, because there was some mention of sharing and also mention of not being for her, and I'm where are we going? I'm interested. I really liked when he met Elaine and Gavin, right? That whole sequence I found quite entertaining. I will say, I feel and this I feel is true for some other characters as well, I feel he's a bit overpowered at times. Not necessarily it's fine. I would like it better if he earned more, because sure, he's trained with the sword with Lan, but not that long, and it just seems he's doing a lot better than he should after the amount of training that he's had. So I do feel sometimes it's oh, okay, how are you beating this sword master? There might be magic involved, but it doesn't always seem like it. And yeah, but in general, I feel that's true for several of the characters, that I would like them to earn their success and abilities more. I'm very interested to see if we get a Rand Tam reunion at any point soon, because I would love to see that. I would love for Rand to be able to ask all of the questions I'm sure he has of his dad. I was very surprised in The Dragon Reborn, I mentioned this several times with the POV changes and everything, how little Rand we got. I enjoyed seeing the other POVs, but I did miss his POV a little bit. But I did like that we got a bit at the end, but I would have liked to see more of his struggle. We got some hints from the other POVs with him being attacked by dogs, I think, and being chased. Maybe we get some mention of it in following books. I don't know, but I would have liked to see more of that as well. Any more thoughts on Rand? I might think of something. For now, no. Let's move on to Perrin. I love Perrin. I am incredibly biased because he has the ability to communicate with wolves, and I love that. That's a thing that I generally love in books, so I'm biased. But I also think that as soon as we started getting his POV in the first book, because we weren't really getting much from him, from Rand's POV, and it makes sense with his character that he is very quiet, he's very thoughtful, and he chooses not to speak before he's thought things through. So it's very nice to get his POV of things and seeing his thought process, because he seems like a smart guy who has a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts and opinions, but he's not really super expressive about it. So I like when we get his POV. I liked in the Dragon Reborn, like the first 9 chapters or something was from his POV, and I really enjoyed that. I'm very interested with what might happen with him, and I have definitely forgot her name, but the hunter, the one who was hunting the horn in Dragon Reborn, I might be able to find it. But they seem to have like a nice connection. Is it Serene? Oh yeah, she's going by the falcon, right? What is the word for falcon that they use? Well, for now, I'm just gonna call her Serene because otherwise I can spend a lot of time looking for whatever word means falcon. I enjoy her. Honestly, I would have loved to see her point of view in the Dragon Reborn, because she's like completely outside and has no idea what's going on in the beginning. And I found her reactions to everything, like when she was discovering things, quite entertaining. I'm very interested to see how, like, whether she integrates into like the group that we have, and how her relationship with Perrin develops. With Perrin as well, I'm also very interested to see like the whole dream world power, how, because I can imagine with both him and Egwene that it was already quite important in Dragon Reborn, and I don't expect it to get less important in the later books. So I'm very interested to see that as well as of course the wolf powers. But that's I love that we got Hopper in like the dream world, because I was so mad when he died. I already didn't like the Children of the Light. It did not help that they killed Hopper. I mean, I'm sure they killed other wolves too, I think. But this was a named one. We learned about his character and then they killed him, and I was so mad. I was really mad. I like that we got him back and that he could fly in the dream world. I love that for him. But I'm very curious to see whether like Perrin ends up like Elias with like his own pack that he hangs out with, or if he's gonna continue to kind of go from pack to pack wherever he is and communicating with the wolves and getting their help for things. Either way, I'm sure I'll love it. And also, like, now he did some smith work, right? And now he has a hammer. I'm curious if he's going to be like fighting with a hammer, or if he's going to keep his axe, or if he's just not going to be fighting. He obviously doesn't like it. And I'll say, like, in the beginning, or not at the beginning, but after Matt and Perrin kind of found out about Rand being able to channel, Matt's reaction, while understandable, was like a bit annoying, because just shut your mouth. He's not going to go mad in a second and kill you. While I think Perrin's was, of course, a lot more understated, because that's just who he is, for one, but also like very understandable. Like, he was a bit suspicious, but he also had something happen that changed him and that he doesn't really know what to do with. So I feel like his reaction didn't annoy me in the same way. That brings us to Matt. Now, Matt, we don't get any POV from before Dragon Reborn, I'm pretty sure. And in the rest of the book, like, he's much more telegraphed in the other people's POVs than Perrin was. And it makes sense, because he's much more, outgoing. He's a prankster. He likes to do things. He makes bad decisions occasionally and opens his mouth when he shouldn't. But I definitely feel like I enjoyed him more after we started getting his POV. I can't see his whole luck thing not ending badly in some way. Like, there has to be some kind of consequence for it. I can't see that it's just going to continue to be, I just have great luck and everything works out for me. There's some downside to it, and I'm unsure whether he was already more lucky than normal before he got the dagger from Shadow Logoth. Is that what his name is? Or whether it's some kind of connection to the dagger that gave him the luck. Don't know, but of course, if it's something to do with the dagger, very suspicious. Not a fan. I did kind of enjoy his like very, very reluctant to help, but also feeling like he has to. So even though he was like, I'm just gonna get away from all of these witches. And he was like, oh no, I have to go and save all of these witches now. So that was interesting. I don't think I have many more thoughts on that. So let's move to some of our other characters. So Moiraine, I like her. I find her very interesting. I'm still also suspicious because it definitely seems like she's willing to go through people in order to make what she wants to happen. I really liked, like, everyone has been suspicious of her from the beginning, and she seems to just be like, probably used to it, I guess, as an Aes Sedai. But I like her, and I find her, like, her bond with Lan fascinating and very interesting, especially in the Dragon Reborn, when she started talking about, like, the potential of her dying and all of the things that she had prepared for Lan in case of her death, basically handing him over in her will. So I'm very curious about, like, whether we might get more about their background and how they, like, got to this point, because I like them. She could definitely do with being more open and telling people more just about the situation, what's going on. They could probably maybe be more helpful if they knew more, but honestly, they could also screw everything up. So I get why she's very cautious about telling people anything. But maybe now that we have a realized Dragon Reborn, clearly there are actually Black Aja, and there's more, like, lines being drawn. Granted, I'm sure that most of the world is still not going to believe that the Dragon Reborn isn't a false dragon, and they're not going to believe that Black Aja exist or that they're different from other Aes Sedai, because they're just suspicious of all of them. Like, for example, Children of the Light. I doubt that they will see any difference between different Aja. But I could see her maybe being more open about, like, plans and events. Maybe not. We'll see. Now, Lan, I like I like he's like the grumpy but very proficient guy who's trying to help, while also he's making sure that everyone knows that he's not happy about helping, even though he's doing it, because he obviously wants to help, but he has to seem reluctant, it seems to me. And him and Nynaeve? Nynaeve? I'm gonna say Nynaeve. And him and Nynaeve, I feel like they're, like, the romance between them came out of absolutely nowhere, but I liked it. So I feel like it could have used some more build-up in the first book, but as soon as it happened, I was like, I'm here for this, and I've liked the development afterwards. It's very much Grump with Grump, unlike the normal Grump with Sunshine, and I enjoy it. I feel they're well matched. I'm very curious about, like, because Lan is actually a king, right? But a king whose country is gone, but I imagine that that's not the end of that for him. So I'm very curious to see whether we get more about that. Oh, the sun is bright right now. Sorry about the shifting lights in this video. And also, that reminds me that there was the whole, like, the wife, I forgot the name and the specifics, but there was someone who ran away with a child, right, from the kingdom. And everyone thinks that they're dead, but are they? Doubt it. I feel like there was some mention in the last book that made me think of it. There was something about that. I've definitely forgot. But yeah, I like him. I'm curious to know more about him. Also, just, like, more about the warders and because they have resistance to magic, right? And there's some things that are special about them, but how do they get like that? I'm curious. And from there, let's move to Nynaeve, just because I just mentioned her. I like her. I'm worried about the whole I can only do magic if I'm angry. For one, that doesn't seem super healthy, just in general. Anger management issues. But I do think that that's something that she's probably going to work on. But I do like that element of her. And I'm very curious where her story goes. I do feel like, at least in the Dragon Reborn, I don't know if it was mentioned as often in the earlier books or if I just didn't notice it, but the whole tugging on her braid all the time, I feel like it got mentioned way too many times. At least more times than I felt like was necessary. And I get that it's like a character trait. It's something that she does, a response that she does all the time. But it got to a point where, like, when it was mentioned, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Again, she's talking on the brain, that's fine. I'm very interested to see, like, how powerful she ends up being, because she's, like, they say that she's much more powerful than the others, but she just has poor control, right? Because she can only do magic when she's angry. So I'm very curious to see, like, if she does get that under control, how powerful could she be? Yeah, yep. Because, for example, we also have Egwene, right? Let's move on to her. She's also if I recall right, like more power, said to be more powerful than most of the novices they get, but she has much more control. So I'm kind of interested to see how they end up like in relation to each other power wise. I'd say like I like Egwene just fine, but I do feel that she was a little bit meh in the beginning. After she was captured and held as a slave in the second book, I do, because I gave her this like trauma response, and she seems to have changed as a character a bit after that, understandably, because I do feel like she was a bit of a blank slate, just a bit of a blank character who just had, her relations to the other characters, but not super much on her own, other than this like the ability to channel that she didn't know she had. So I'm very curious to see how we continue on with her. Also, now that she's learning how to use her dream walking powers, a lot of potential in that I feel as well. But I do feel like she became more of a character later on than she was in the beginning. Yeah, let's move on to Elaine. As I mentioned, I really liked like when we met her the first time, when Ren fell into the royal garden. That was quite interesting. It's also been interesting to see her in a completely different setting, right, in Tar Valon as a novice, because her circumstances have completely changed, right? Now she's used to being the daughter heir, and now she's at the bottom of the rung. Nope, at the at the bottom rung of the ladder, and I found that quite interesting. I like her friendship with Egwene and Mina. Though I will say, I think I probably have more questions about her brothers, and especially her relationship to the one that she says isn't her brother. I forgot, because there's Gavin, who is her brother, and then the other one who they share a father, right? But she doesn't acknowledge him as a brother. And I'm curious about, she has given some reasons, but I feel like there must be more behind that, because she says that he always does what's right no matter what, and whether it's for the best. So I feel like there must be a story behind why that makes her dislike him so much, because that on its own doesn't seem like it should cause such strong dislike in her. But I don't know. I am curious. I like her, the other brother, Gavin. I hope we see more of him as well. Her mom terrifies me, but right now with the new advisor, who's obviously a Forsaken, not going great. Honestly, a ruler who has anger management issues as badly as it sounds like she does, doesn't sound like a great ruler. But maybe it's the fact that like she had good advisors who could keep her in check before, and now she doesn't. So I'm worried about where that's going to go. In general, we've seen now several major cities that have been kind of taken over by the Forsaken, and I imagine that there are more than the ones that we've seen. So it seems like we're heading into like an all-out war across the continent. But back to the characters. What do I have on this? Yeah, right. Tom. I really like Tom. I like when he died. I kind of assumed that he didn't actually die, because both like we didn't see it directly, and Moraine was also like, yeah, no, he's not dead. It's fine. Paraphrasing, but yeah. And I liked that when Rand found him again, he was like, yeah, no, I'm out. No thanks. And then I feel bad for him that he was kind of forced back into the fray when his girlfriend, I don't remember, I think it was a girlfriend, right? When his girlfriend was murdered. But I like that he's like back as part of the group, kind of. I also I wondered, because when Rand finds him, he's not with the others, right? And there was no mention of him mentioning to the others when they reunited that Tom was alive, but it was mentioned like when Matt saw Tom that Rand had mentioned it. So because I did wonder in between those points, and that was quite a long in between, whether he had mentioned it at all, because a lot was happening, so maybe he forgot to mention it, but it seemed like a relatively major thing. Yeah, who else? All right, Elias, again, wolves. I'm very biased. We only saw him in the first book. We've heard some about him from in some of the other books from other characters, and I'm very curious if we're going to see him again. Maybe, I can imagine that Perrin could learn a lot from him if he wants to. I'm not sure he does right now, but I find him quite interesting, and I think it was mentioned that he was a warder before, which I'm also very curious about. Is that what was mentioned? Maybe not. But yeah, I would like to learn more about his background as well. Another character I'm curious about, power-wise, is Mina. How, I don't really understand how her precognition works. It's something about seeing auras around people, right? But it seems, that makes it sound very vague, but she seems to draw quite certain conclusions from it. But I might just be missing something, that I'm not really understanding how it works. But I like her. I do feel like her feelings for Rand came again, like kind of out of nowhere, where like I can understand, like Egwene, of course, they've basically been betrothed since birth. So it makes sense that she has certain feelings for Rand. Elaine and Mina, I feel like it happened very fast. But that might just be me, that they became basically like obsessed with Rand. Speaking of Rand, Tam. I'm very interested in Tam and whether, as I mentioned, whether we'll see a reunion anytime soon, because I'm sure there are many questions that he could answer. I'm curious about like how much did he know? Was it simply like, oh, there's a woman giving birth on the battlefield for some reason? What? I'm gonna take this baby home. Or does he know more? Because he also had the Heron marked blade, right? So he was a blade master. He might have had connections or more knowledge. I don't know. I'm curious whether he does. And on that note, I'm very curious about the Aiel in general. Like, I really like the hints we've gotten. A lot of different stories, a lot of different, obviously, like very scary stories. They have a bad rep, it seems. But I'm very curious to learn more about them. I find it very interesting, the whole, they didn't see the invasion thing as a war. They just saw it as, well, they broke the agreement, I think, so we're doing this to punish them, all well within what is just justice, even if we are invading with a bunch of warriors. Very interesting. They also have a lot of like cultural things where I'm like, oh, that's very interesting, and I look forward to seeing like Rand interact with them and learn about them as well. Another group of people that I feel the opposite about, well, no, it's not that I'm not curious about them, but I also hate them, would be the Children of the Light. I already self-righteous religious people who use their religion as an excuse, often, to basically condemn people and kill people and do what they think is right because of their beliefs. The worst. It didn't help that they killed Hopper, of course. Hate them. And also just that they are obviously seeing things and drawing the completely wrong conclusions and then basing all of their actions on those conclusions and feeling like they are completely in the right. Infuriating. I don't remember the names of any of them right now, but there is like the leader, right? And then the son of the guy who died in the Great Hunt, and he's also very infuriating. And the fact that they now have it out for Perrin worries me a lot because I love him. And also that like I'm pretty sure that they know Perrin is from Two Rivers, so I'm also worried about everyone back home. And yeah, in general, I'm just worried about them. I could also definitely see them. There's been talk of them like camping out. They are camping out, but it is like a weird way to say it, around Tar Valon. And there's been several mentions of basically like, yeah, no, they would never go to war. X for doubt. I could definitely see that happening. I could potentially see them like teaming up with Queen Morghese, right? From I forget the name of the city, because there are two with CA and I get them mixed up. She's the Queen of Andor, right? From Camelin, and she right now has a Forsaken as an advisor, and I could definitely see him like taking advantage of the fact that the Children of the Light hate the Aes Sedai so much, and then like teaming up with them to go to war against Tara Valon, and he could probably convince Morghese to do so because she's unhappy with Elaine being there and everything. So we'll see how that develops, but I could see it going that way, and that worries me a little bit. And oh right, I forgot her on my list, but pretty important. Celine. If Celine isn't Lanfear, then I'm gonna just give up on life, at least on making theories about books. Because as soon as we met her, I just went, oh yeah, so she's Lanfear, right? Because she's extremely beautiful. She somehow used the portal stones. She somehow knows the name of this creature in the portal stone world thing. She is weirdly obsessed with Rand, and we just heard some prophecies about her, and she was involved with Luce Thurin, right? And she wants Rand. I'm like, yeah, that if she's not, be really surprised. Also because from the very first time we met her, I was pretty convinced, and I've only gotten more convinced because Matt has met her, or Matt has met a woman described as the most beautiful woman, right? Who definitely seems to be Lanfear. I don't remember if that was like directly stated in that part. Perrin was told by Mina to run from the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. Now he seems quite confused and worried that it's actually Sarin, the Falcon lady. I highly doubt that. I think he just thinks she's pretty, but he has not described her as the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. He's just worried because he doesn't really know what to do with her, I think. But yeah, if Celine isn't also Lanfear, I give up on everything, I think. Yeah, because it seems quite obvious to me, and if it's not actually true, then I don't know what to do with myself. We'll see about that. Also, I hate her. I hate the whole, like, she keeps being very seductive until people stop doing what she's trying to seduce them to do, and then she obviously has anger problems. She seems to not be like 100% aligned with the Dark One and the other Forsaken, but still, she's no good. I highly doubt she's good news. I could be wrong. I highly doubt it. I'd be very surprised. That would be a twist. We'll see. Yeah. So, right. So I mentioned in my vlog for The Dragon Reborn how I feel like the plot structure is becoming a bit predictable. And when I say that, I mean the fact that we have a group of characters, right? That group of characters will split up and then end at the same spot, like in the same place for the final climax, which will be like 50 or 100 pages of the book, and the rest of the book is kind of getting to that point. And that feels a little bit too predictable for me. Because, like, yeah, sure, in Dragon Reborn, for example, Matt kept talking about how he needed to go away from Tervalon, away from the witches, and I was like, yeah, sure, you're gonna end up in tears somehow. I don't know how, but you are. And that's a bit of a bummer when it gets like that. And honestly, I also wouldn't mind, I mentioned this in the blog as well, leaving it a bit more open-ended, leaving our characters more split up and not having necessarily this like huge climax at the end of the story, but maybe just have like some of the characters, their story has like the definitive climax and the others are out there somewhere. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just feel like it's a little bit predictable by now. And I do still have 11 books to go, so I hope it doesn't stay with the same structure. We'll see. So I wrote some theories down. I might have also already mentioned them. Oh yeah, so the first one is the whole Celine being Lanfear. Pretty sure about that. I'm also pretty sure that Rand isn't going to figure it out before it's too late. Like, there's going to be something bad that happens because of her and him in some way before he figures out that she's Lanfear. We'll see, but that's my guess. As I mentioned, something with Matt's luck is definitely going to bite him in the ass later. Either like where it came from, or it's going to turn, or something. It can't keep going. Like, he can't have the lucky feet and have no consequences. I don't think that's going to be good for him in the long run. Yeah, and I think I've mentioned the other theories that I wrote down. Now, granted, I wrote all of this down after I read all the books. Should have been writing things down while I was reading the books. I'll do that for the next one and like write down theories and thoughts as I go along. I'm not used to like taking notes on books when I read, but I definitely felt like I was missing some notes when I was writing all of these thoughts down, because I'm sure that I had a lot of other thoughts throughout the reading, and they're just gone now. Brain gone. Yeah, and I have some things that I'm like excited for, slash hoping for. I mentioned some of them already when talking about the characters, like the Aiel and their connection to Rand. I'm hoping to see much more of and learn more about them and their connection to Rand. I mentioned a reunion between Tim and Rand. I just in general want like the Two Rivers characters to have some kind of reunion with someone, because like I want there to be an exchange of news about what has happened and see like the reactions, and I want that, and questions and all those kinds of things. So I'm hoping for that. Don't know when. If the Children of the Light end up going to the to Two Rivers and stirring up some things, that could be like the inciting incident. We did also have Matt's dad, whose name I forgot, and Rand's dad. Like it's been mentioned that they went to Tarvalon to look for them, so that also interests me a lot. I don't think that Rand knows that his dad went to Tarvalon to look for him. I don't think, at least. I want the I literally wrote in my notes that I want the Children of the Light to burn in hell. And by that, it's just, I want them to fail. I want them to fail at everything they try. And I'm sure they're not going to fail at everything. But please let them fail at most things, and then not have them mess everything up and be self-righteous and think that they're in the right. And that's the same thing, but I find them so frustrating. I don't like them. And then, of course, Perrin and his wolf connection. I want to see more about that. I really want to see more of that. See more what it means, the whole dream walking, or the whole like connection to the dream world, dream realm. I'm really bad with names and I forget these kinds of things. So I hope it's still understandable with my little confusing words for things. All right, and I wrote one more thing down that I haven't mentioned at all. I'm very curious about like the black wind in the ways and what what's that all about? Like how did it start? Why? What is it? Is there a way to deal with it? How did Bane, the peddler, the demonic possessed guy, how did he make it like guard the entrances? Very curious. That does remind me of Loyal. Haven't mentioned him. I like him. He's so endearing. I just like him. He's very cute. I mean, I'm sure he's also going to be important in the following books. Like both his knowledge, but also potentially like his tree singing powers. Maybe I don't know how long tree singing takes. But I'm also very curious to see whether we will get him like running into someone from his own steading, because we've seen him in the other steading, right? When they were gonna go through the ways there. I don't remember the name of the steading, but he definitely seemed worried about in general, he seemed quite worried about someone from his steading botting him. So I can't imagine that there won't come a time where that will happen. So very curious about that. Do I have any other thoughts? Practical thing with these indexes is that I can look at them and see if any of the chapter titles bring any thoughts out. All right, I saw the chapter titled "The Emerald Seed." There's the whole, definitely forgot the name of like the magical objects that were like 3 different types, but the ones that they use to test the novices before they become accepted. Very curious about the meaning behind the visions that they see. How real are they? Are they actually like what would have happened in a parallel world or something? For example, like Egwene was the Emerald seat in one of them, right? Is that gonna happen? That would be interesting. Oh right, yeah, there are the assassins who are dead but alive. What's up with that? And why was it Perrin that could sense them? Very curious. World of Dreams, the ring. Yeah, there's nothing else that comes to mind. So I think I'll end my little ranty rambly video here. Stay, because that's at least everything I could think of. I am sure there are things I'm forgetting. There's probably characters I completely forgot to mention, plot points, theories. I have no doubts. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna try when I start the next book to write things down as I go, because I should not trust my brain. I know I have ADHD, I have memory problems. It should stop trusting that I'll just remember things maybe someday. I guess I forget that I shouldn't trust my memory. Feel free to leave comments on your thoughts or any theories or anything. Be careful with spoilers, because there might be things where someone might think that, oh, well, this is like foreshadowed or it's obvious or these and these things point to this, that I might just have completely missed. Whereas like I could or should have picked up on it, but I didn't because I'm an idiot. But it does let me sometimes be surprised at things where other people have seen it coming. So please be careful with that if it's not something I've directly mentioned. Maybe be a bit vague or something, because I would still love to hear thoughts and opinions on these books, and I would love to chat about them as well. Either way, I really hope you enjoyed this rambly bit of a mess video. I'll try to be more structured in the next one, and thank you for staying all the way to the end. I will see you next time. Bye.